Something I'm really questioning right now is whether or not I want my kids to continue in public school in Texas. And it's ironic because I guess I'm in the situation that the conservative parents were in before when they felt like they didn't like what their kids were being taught. I had a follower reach out and ask me about this. And she's from Katy. And my answer for people in Katy is different from my answer to people in Austin. So with school, the state has a say, obviously. That whole bluebonnet curriculum that has Bible stories infused in it is pretty creepy. And a lot of schools are having to adopt that because the state incentivized it. They got more money if they used that curriculum, which is unfortunate. However, the school board is enormously powerful, which is why the Christian nationalist billionaires, Tim Dunn, Ferris Wilks, those folks, that's why they funded school board campaigns, because they knew how important the school board was. So what does your school board look like? I know in Katy, they're some of the biggest book banners. So I would be very afraid if my children was going to a school in Katy. I don't know if that school board has changed over yet. I have not paid attention to that. So if you're just trying to decide, should I put my kids in private school because the Christian schools in Texas are trying to turn them into Christians? That's a good question, especially because, the portal for private school vouchers opens up in January. Like, we can actually have private school educations funded. Now, to that, I would say most private schools are Christian. And the ones that aren't sometimes have questionable educational systems. So that's a whole nother topic. So let's just shelve benefits and problems of private school and just talk about the danger of public school in Texas. There are lawsuits fighting back on the Ten Commandments stuff. Your school board, you need to question that. Your principal has a huge influence on how your school is structured, how its funding is used, its climate. I was under a principal who was pretty MAGA adjacent. When people complained about my account, even though I was supported by the Austin Council of PTAs because my account was private and I was not talking about my role as PTA president, my principal did not support me, and she was going to let them vote me out of my board. She's gone now, which is great, but that makes a difference. Also, your teachers. Look at what comes home. Talk to them. You are 100% allowed to ask how they feel politically and to be curious what's happening in the classroom. Now, this whole thing is just so ironic to me. I was Christian conservative growing up. I remember learning about evolution and thinking, is this true? The good thing about my family is my family was all very well educated. So we never went like this to science and facts. We always tried to fit our theology into science. And so my dad didn't have a problem with evolution. I mean, he might still make jokes about us coming from monkeys, but I went into public school knowing that some things I learned might not jive with my religion, but I didn't care. That wasn't the point. I learned to navigate it, which is what these whiny, pathetic Christians in Texas can't seem to do. And if they had more money and were more successful in life, they would go to the private schools and we wouldn't have to hear their bullshit. Unfortunately for us, they're too poor for that. So they had to throw fits about books and DEI and people like getting sex change operations at school, even though you can't even give them a cough drop. That was totally happening. And the litter boxes, that was a thing too. And these people are definitely not insane conspiracy theorists who have no touch with reality. Definitely not. So that's my answer. What does your city look like? What does your school board look like? What does your principal look like? What does your teacher look like? And then you make your decision based on that. At the end of the day, it is still your job as their parent to supplement their education. Talk about what they learned. See if there's anything weird. Look at what comes home. Talk to the teachers. And whether or not we go to private school, that's a whole nother video that I don't feel like talking about yet because I'm struggling with it myself. As a public education advocate, do I be a traitor and go apply for a private school voucher? My gut reaction is hell no. My second reaction is, I could use that money to homeschool them. And then the Texas GOP would never have their claws in their brains. Maybe we should be homeschooling, is what I'm dealing with right now.